Welcome to the Team Engagement Podcast, where leaders of teams share their insights. We discuss 6 questions in 9 minutes because leaders know how to be concise. Welcome to our guest today. The first question, of course, as always, in a few sentences, tell us who you are and what you do.
Yeah, thanks for having me. My name is Rob Napoli. I'm the co-founder and principal of Hapday Group. Hapday Group is an operational consultancy that helps businesses launch and scale in the U.S. market. We work with both domestic and international companies looking to scale. We do that through 3 core products. One is around training and development through a series of niche or skill-based boot camps, which we're actually running one in October called the Virtual B2B Sales Boot Camp. We do that through sales as a service, so acting as an SDR for hire, so to speak, and then through your traditional consultancy advisory capacity, as I used to work for a startup in the past and have helped a European startup kind of try to attack the US market, come through an accelerator, and been through that as well. So that is what we do and who I am in a quick version, so to speak.
That's great. Well, you're obviously a very busy person, so
Yeah.
that's great.
Very much.
Well, question number 2, what's the best thing about working with a team?
Yeah. I grew up playing team sports. I played Division III football at Simpson College in the Midwest in a small town in Iowa. And I actually got to spend 2 years of my life coaching professional American football in Italy for the Milano Seamen. So I've always been a team guy. And I think one thing I love about teams is the collaboration and diversity, right? You get to learn from so many other people, but you also get to connect on very different levels from people of all walks and all types. And I think that working with a team, there's that, collaboration, that singular goal that you work towards. And it's really energizing. And that's definitely one thing that I've always loved about working in a team and how I try to cultivate my teams as we build and go forward, from both being a coach, being a player, and being a business owner.
Oh, I love that. Great perspectives. Question number 3, I hear from other leaders of teams that it can be a challenge to get team members engaged. Tell us your thoughts.
Yeah, very much so. I think, what's tough about engaging teams is there's no one way to do it, right? Depending on, my company, we're 6 folks. I've got a team member in Milan, Italy, one in London, but by the time this time next week, she'll be moved to Paris, Brooklyn, California, Minnesota. So all over the place, you engage people in different ways, right? And, for big organizations, I used to work for larger corporates, the way that you would engage, say, a developer team is different than you would engage a sales team. So I think the challenge is, or my thoughts around that is just to find what makes sense for you and where your company is or where your team is at that time and create some sort of bond around that and know that each individual member gets engaged a little bit differently. So you can do your team challenges and that's great, but you also need to really look at how to do that even more so in a remote world, right? We're all remote. COVID has forced that. We've had to learn to change and adapt. And some of the things that we did quickly to engage the team were morning check-ins, kind of lunch and learn check-ins and some just games in the evening, get together for 20, 30 minutes and do some sort of game or story just to engage and feel connected to each other. That was just breaking away from team meetings.
I like those comments, especially the parts about the individual approach, because you're right. Everybody kind of beats to or walks to the beat of a different drum. And sometimes we forget that as leaders, that it's not one size fits all. So I love that comment. Love that comment.
Absolutely.
Question number 4. What other piece of advice do you have for leaders of teams?
Yeah. I think, there's all kinds of leadership styles. I very much believe in the servant leadership, right? And so I think it's really easy for a leader, especially when times are tough or pressure's on, to really forget to take a step back and listen to your team. And so for me, one of the biggest advice I will always give is to, one, be appreciative of your team, because nothing that you will accomplish or do as a leader would be all for nothing without your team. Because many times they're the one that are grinding out there with you to really help drive your vision forward or your team forward or your growth forward. So just always be appreciative and take a second. It seems like we have so much going on in life, but to take 5 minutes out of your day to just check in with each team member and listen makes all the difference, because they feel heard. You're going to really understand what's happening within the team from a very short clip, and it just allows you to be a better leader. So appreciation and listening, I think, is my biggest advice for leaders, especially now when everything seems intensified or amplified and virtual. It's really hard to create some of those connections when you don't see them every day or see how they're feeling or see what they're doing. Just take that extra second and be transparent and appreciative of what they do for you.
Great comments about gratitude and listening. You can never overstate listening and communication, can you? It's just
Absolutely. It's one of the things that we love at our company. In fact, on Fridays, we do a lunch and learn every Friday. And we start that lunch and learn out with gratitude and values. So each one of our team members gets chosen for the week, one thing you're grateful for from the week, and what was one of the company's core values did you see exemplified through our clients, through our team, or through your own actions. And that's how we kick off every Friday lunch and learn. It's a great way to wrap up the week through gratitude of the team.
I like that. I think that's a great idea that I hope more of our viewers and listeners will think about and implement in some way, is how to give those team members an opportunity to share some really positive, good things that are going on, and that sense of gratitude. I love that.
Absolutely.
Question number 5, what other successful leaders of teams would you like to recognize that have had a positive influence in your life?
Great question. There's too many people to count, but I will say one that comes to mind when looking at this question, hearing this question, and where I learned a lot of my own self was one of my first true bosses of the first job that I stayed in for a decent amount of time. I was there for 5 years, and her name was Carrie LaCava. And at one point, it was just her and I building a new office in West Des Moines, Iowa, in a flyover state. But I learned a lot about how to be a leader and how to carry yourself and how to make an impact. So she was definitely one. And then, my coaches, I could name a lot of them, but there was definitely an influential high school football coach by the name of Rick Byers that, really, I wish I knew a lot then what I know now, but I see a lot of his lessons exemplifying into who I am later in life.
It's always amazing when we have those early coaches and teachers and parents or whoever else it may be, and the lessons that we've learned that continue throughout our lives. I think that's great.
Absolutely. It makes a big impact. And also, just as I'm thinking about it, there's one other person that has impacted me in the last really year and a half. And that's my business partner and the founder of Hapday Group, who I actually met 3.5 years ago when I moved to New York City. And he's, has really challenged me in ways that I never thought possible to upskill me as a leader, from those early foundations to the way that I am today, and kind of tying the loops on both ends.
That's fantastic. Well, thanks for recognizing all of those individuals. That's fantastic. Well, last question. Tell us about your first job.
My first job, as in first job ever, first job out of college. Because my first job, I started working when I was a kid. My dad used to do all these construction side jobs. He would love to do it for fun. It was his way of, I'm a twin, so I have a twin brother. So that's a lot of muscle when you're working on a side project on a weekend. So that was really my first job, make a few bucks or dinner or go to the movies afterwards by working with him. My first professional job was actually terrible. It was 2010 when I graduated. I was working for a recruitment firm in the healthcare space. And I took the job because I didn't want to go back home. I wanted to stay in Des Moines with my friends. And I watched tapes on how to be a recruiter from 1985. Granted, I was born in 87. And I was given a phone and resumes, no computer. It's 2010. So it didn't last long, but I learned a lot about picking the phone and smiling and dialing. And it really kind of kicked off me getting outside my comfort zone into sales. And I think that actual job, that 6 months, has made a huge impact on my career as it is today because of that. And as much as I didn't love it, I look back and know that there was a lot of lessons that I learned, and it really has shaped me.
This is one of my favorite questions in the podcast, because people will often share not just the details of their first job, but what they learned about it. So yeah, we learn a lot from those early jobs.
Absolutely.
Rob, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. How can people find you?
Yes, probably best to be LinkedIn. Robert Napoli, I'll make sure to drop a link. Or on Instagram, it's Rise Up Rob Nap. We'll make sure the link there as well. Those will be the best two ways to get a hold of me, or you can reach to me on email, rob@hapday.co. That's HAPDAY.co, or via our website, hapday.co.
Great. This is Sean Richards with the Team Engagement Podcast, where leaders of teams share their insights. For more ideas, you can find us on LinkedIn by searching Blue Sky Business Consulting. Thanks so much for joining us, and have a great day.